I am not hearing anything here. Are we am I Here we go.
Yeah, we
Um,
live, we live.
yeah man, we're coming through. All right. Greetings in the name of all that is good. I am G. Michael Reed. This is our weekly podcast every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Belize time. We say to you, welcome. Those of you who join in from very early, we ask you to because we have lots of things that we discuss. We have no axe to grind. We have no scapegoats, no sacred cows, no fear, no favor, no agenda, neither political, religious, personal, or otherwise. We opine on trending issues, but claim no authority or expertise as such. So you take it as you see it, and then we ask you to get involved. If you have questions as to what we say, if you can dispute what we say, if you have opinions of your own, if you have concerns, or if you have information and stuff, please join in. This is a wide open discussion where we try to cover the topics in an impartial way. It is Holy Week, Holy Thursday to be exact, and we figure we still do it. Most people are taking off for the Easter holiday, but this is a labor of love for us. There's no real work involved. We enjoy doing this. We think it is necessary. We have to have shows like these. We try to encourage things that add to the development of our country. One such project, I visited Bird's Isle today, and Cleon Hyde is there with an amazing camp, kind of like what Kobe do. Evandale Coburn does that on a regular basis too. But these are programs that don't get the kind of coverage in the media. This, if it bleeds, it leads. And if it bleeds, then it's the only thing that's worth reporting is ridiculous. Yes, we'd like to know the news and what's going on in the country, but mix in some of the positive stuff, man, because there's lots of good things happening. Belizeans have to understand that we're a good country. We are living in a good country. And if we just focus on the negatives anyway, and speaking of negatives, Jeremy, welcome to the show. Good evening, Mr. Spooner. Where I say? Yeah, another area. You to hear me? Is it my mic not working or is your mic not working? What are the situation? Say something. Can you hear me? You can't hear me because I see you. Huh? You can't hear me? You're not hearing me? I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, nothing.
You really? Hold on. My mic is on. I'm hearing
Yeah,
it.
your mic is good, G Mike. I'm not hearing spooners.
So where he last man?
Yeah, me,
Um,
you gotta make plug his mic in. I'm gonna let him know.
plug your mic. Put in your headset. We are hearing. And I'm hearing you too, but you're not hearing me. Hello. You understand
Can
sign
you hear
language?
me? Can you
Yes, I
hear
can
me?
hear very well. Very well. Why can't you
You
hear
could
me?
hear me,
Where's your?
yes?
Yes, yes, yes. Where is your
I
earpiece?
can't hear nothing.
Why? Why you don't have an earpiece in? You have your. Are you muted? Is your mic muted? Well, you can't hear me, so it don't make no sense to talk to you. I can hear you. I can hear you. Why can't you hear me? Your mic is working. Your
I'm gonna
earpiece.
log out and log back in again.
Try something because whatever you're doing is not working. All right. Yes. Yes. All right. Anyway, so we're expecting, of course, our usual panel. Gregory Morrison comes in from west of the U.S. Joe Cowey, our resident expert on political matters and philosopher extraordinaire, he comes in from Belize also. I am in Belize, by the way. Again, I was talking about the camp, the basketball camp. Let's see if Private Citizen Spooners is doing any better now. Can you hear me, sir? No?
Okay, I hear you now. Yeah.
Where I just said, make I know if you can hear me. Uh,
I just got on.
where I say? Where I say no?
You said that you're so happy to have Jeremy
I
Spooner
said
on
where
your
I say.
podcast. That you
No.
love him so much. You're so proud of him.
I would never have said that. You mean,
No, why not? Be that ballet man.
did you see this ballet and ballet that went and said I believe? Listen, did you see who was it? It was Dave Chappelle when he said that because AI and whatnot and they make people the settings where they're not really to say he needed a key phrase that you would know if he say that not him to say the kind of something that he would never say. Did you see that show?
No, I did not see that show.
All right. The phrase was "I stand with Israel," and then the man dropped the mic. Interesting.
Okay.
But good to hear that you're still there. Happy Easter. Are you
Easter to you.
prepared?
Happy good Thursday going into
Holy,
Friday.
Holy Thursday, actually. Holy
Yes.
Thursday, Holy Week, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Sunday. Holy
Yeah.
Saturday, of course, means annual cross country. Are you a cycling fan?
If I'm in town, I will watch it on TV while I'm doing other things, listening on it.
So it's
Yes.
not a priority for you.
No, it's not a
You're not a
priority
big
for me.
fan. That's all right.
But
I mean,
I like the idea. Yeah, I got caught
yeah,
behind it. I wasn't too happy one time about that. But
I don't like rugby either, so we good.
yeah, but work with a man game, you know.
I'm not seeing that side of it, Jeremy. I have not seen that side of that silly game. The
Yeah.
one
Actually,
combination.
the gang is preparing a trip. There's a bunch of guys that go every
Uh-huh.
year to the States to watch the last rugby game in the Six Nations rugby match. It's a big thing every year. So they're all planning to go to Dublin, Ireland. So I'm gonna while I can still young and still able to move around, I'm gonna join in. I head over to the Republic of Ireland next year.
Wonderful. That
So
sounds like a good trip.
yeah, it sounds
And
like a good trip. Yeah, yeah.
and I think people should travel. They say if you greetings, my friend there, Renee, greetings. They say that if you're a person who does not travel, it's like reading a book but only one page because you're not seeing the other pages that's in the book, and it's good to travel to different places. I wish I could travel more. Of course,
Yeah.
it's expensive. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and it always helps if you know people there or you're traveling with a group. A man like you were with a lollygaga and wait for somebody else to pick up the check, then
Yeah.
you could do it, So
Yeah, well, actually, what I'm doing, it's a goal. So I'm going to start. I started therapy on my knee today, so I'm going to start try to lose a little bit of weight. It's a goal for me, lose some weight and get a little bit healthier for the trip. I'm also I use my American Advantage Mastercard for everything. I buy everything with that card, and then at the end of the month, I pay the bill off. So I'm gathering miles. So I have like 30,000 miles right now. So maybe by near the end of the year, I will have the amount of mileage to fly to Dublin and not have to pay nothing. No?
wonderful. What's a
Yeah.
Mastercard again? I mean that's something where
Yeah, I used to be a Nova Scotia. Sorry, I used to be a Nova Scotia card. Good evening, Lisa.
Lisa, do you remember Lisa? Lisa was on the show for a while with us.
No,
Lisa
I'm sorry, I don't.
Castanedas. And here's
And then there's
Arden Edwards checking in. Yeah.
good evening, Arden Edwards. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
Jeremy Spooner, by the way. Yep, I'm a good friend of Mike Reed. We are good friends. We grew up together.
I,
A lot
I,
of harmony between us.
I would say friends. I don't know about the good friends part, but
Yeah.
we're like that slide. We're working that Good Friday, so we everything good. And
Yeah.
if the Friday is good when it'll kill Jesus, then everything else must be good, regardless
Yeah.
of what.
Yeah. What happened tomorrow? Tomorrow is when he came into Jerusalem, or that was Palm Sunday? I forget.
No, that was last Sunday. Yeah, last Sunday, and it shows how good. Let's see what Renee's saying. Wonder what part war travel to the other side of the world would be like. Airports here are like zoo. Well, I think that was because the people were on strike, no? We're kind of people who process the bags and whatnot. But I think that issue has been solved. Now, as
Yeah,
far
they're
as the
not being
war,
paid. They're not being paid, so I think they didn't turn up for work. Yeah.
yeah, I think they
So
got
ICE has taken over.
kind of like our customs officers at the border, because I understand we had on the
Yes.
issue there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know how the war now will affect travel. Um,
Well, by the time I travel, the war will probably be over. Trump said in the next few weeks it will be over.
you actually watched them and believed them, huh?
I
Uh,
watch him, but I
I
know things can change. I know things can change. War is not easy. What is amazing is this war is like those games. What do you call them? You know those games where you video games and so on. Everything is just missiles and drones. The war has changed. You don't have to put troops on the ground right now. You
kind
know
of
you
cowardly, don't you think?
No, that's just how the war has evolved.
Well, I mean, how
Before
you
that, you used to
for
bomb
you
the
just,
area.
for you
Before
just
you would,
why would you do that? That's like me and you to fight, and I stand up for a distance in some pint battle and bomb out your house.
yeah,
That
it's
to me,
strategic.
that's not
It's
fight. That's
strategic.
not fighting. No man. In
You know.
particular, if you got all the battling, and I not got no battle for stone your back with, but they're
So what you
finding
want?
out.
You want to go back to hand and fist?
No, let's not fight. Let's work this thing out,
The
man.
world is not made
What
like that. We are made to
hold up,
fight.
hold up. You can't just excuse it like that. What is this war about, in your opinion, and do you really believe it was justified?
Well, it's kind of difficult because I have problems with the killing of people, but I am on the Western Front. I'm in the West. America. This is not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump is probably the only president that has fulfilled the promises of America.
No, no, no,
This
no, 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 no,
No,
no.
no, no. Listen to me. Not
Yeah,
cutting right now.
but you can't just throw a thing like that and run
I
past it.
know I'm not
Obviously, that's all
quoting.
right. That is not the will of the Americans, and this is the first
It's been the
Trump.
will of other American presidents, G Mike. They've
No,
all
no,
talked about
no.
it.
Yeah, yeah, but they have none of them have allowed Netanyahu to pull them into this trap. Can you see that?
I don't think that tonight pull him into any trap. I think nobody can pull the wool over my boy's eyes.
Why not
Yeah.
stop your fool? Lisa
No
is
man,
saying
come
that.
on.
Let me just read what Lisa is saying, because stop your campaigning. Lisa is saying TSA officers were being unpaid, and the consequences to that was short staff and long lines for
Just
gate
everyone being
clearance.
unpaid and yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
does. Good night, Arden. Now,
I think that anybody in Congress, when they hold them poor people to hostage like this, they shouldn't get paid either. They shouldn't get paid either. You know.
you mean Congress should not get paid either?
Well, they're causing this right now. It's because two of them can't agree. But it's all stemming down to that ID. There's nothing wrong with the ID. You should have America's IDs for everything. What's wrong with having an ID for voting? Nothing wrong with it. We got it in Belize, right? We do have it in Belize, right?
But you're simplifying a very complicated matter, because there's more than that. I'm sure it's not. This can't be just about an ID, Jeremy. You have to turn
It's
off
also
facts.
about Democrats and Republicans. That's anything Republicans want. It's just like UDP can't find nothing good that your party does.
Why, I don't
Nothing
know.
good.
Did you
No
listen
matter
to
what
the
they do.
did you listen to the proceedings in the House? In fact,
Yes,
a
I
lot of
watched some of it.
a
Yeah.
lot of UDPs are upset because Tracy was complimenting the current government, and a couple of the other members, Lee Mark, has been complimenting the current government. So they apparently we can agree on a few things, can't we?
Well, I like that. I like that. I
What
think that we
what I
should.
like what I'd like for us to try to agree on, and I want to ask you, was Iran an imminent threat to the United States? Why they felt they had to go to war?
Okay. Well, I don't sit in their boardrooms, G Mike. I can only gather information for myself what I see overall on the media. And apparently their justification is that which doesn't just start with Trump. This goes way back. This goes back from Carter time and every president after that. It's that Iran has been a thorn in the American side, and and Iran has always made threats.
Why?
They are
Why?
worried. They are
Why?
worried that Iran is going to have a nuclear arms, and they just don't trust them having any. And that's what it
But there
boils down
was
to.
a proliferation treaty that was signed. Iran has continuously said we, in fact, is against the doctrine.
Are you
The
talking
Muslims,
about the time when Obama signed over how much
correct.
billions in cash?
And you know, sign
And
no
that all he
billions.
did
Just
was buy.
want you to stop your biased views, man.
And well, no,
Let's
it's
be.
not
I
biased, G
just
Mike. You
told
see,
people that what we are
G
objective.
Mike, you
We
Mike.
are
See,
objective,
when I
Spooner.
talk about what I'm saying, you said a bias. When you say what you saying, oh, it's the truth. Not
No,
wrong. We're
no, but
talking. We're
I not to
talking.
tell the truth, nor the being biased.
Okay.
I'm stating facts, and
Okay.
you are not stating facts. You're stating what you're
You
regurgitating,
you're
talking
asking
points.
me a question. Why?
But if we talk to you,
You
you
just
wait.
love Iran. Why you not go live there, Iran? Why you not go live there?
But
Huh?
wait,
You love Iran.
you see how I love people on a whole, and I don't like to see innocent people dying. How about that? Didn't you just say that a while ago?
You asked me why do you think America is doing what they're doing?
Do
Okay,
you
and I
love
will try to
America?
tell you why.
Do you love America?
I like America. I'm
Why
an
don't you
American
go live
citizen.
there? Why don't you
Huh?
go
I
live
love the
there?
wisdom. This is
Why
where my
don't you
heart
go
is.
live there? Let this
Why did you
if
think I leave? Why you think I left?
let
Why you
us
think I left? Why you think I left?
let us maintain the same shot. All right, no get sidetracked. But I'm saying to you, what was the imminent threat? And I don't want to hear you say I wasn't in a boardroom. I don't hear what they say. And this is a long time thing with a lot of presidents. What do you believe was the
Well,
imminent threat
just
and
like
why?
you that relies on information that's put out there, I rely on that same information. And I'm
Okay.
trying to tell you, right,
Yes.
that
Yes.
according to Trump and all the other American citizens,
Yes.
presidents, sorry,
Uh-huh.
that Iran has been a thorn and a threat to peace in the Middle East, sponsoring Hezbollah, Hamas, okay, terrorist
Why?
organizations,
Why?
depending on what side you're on, okay, and
Uh-huh.
that is why they're doing what they're doing.
Why?
Simple as that.
Why do you think they were sponsoring these
Because
prophecies,
they're
if you
on the
will?
side of the Palestinians,
All right. And is that such a bad thing when they're the ones being persecuted?
but they're killing people, they're murdering Jewish people,
Who is? Who
raping their
is? Who
women,
is?
killing their kids,
Who?
and so on. It's horrific, G Mike. What both sides are doing is horrific.
No, no,
I've
it's
always
not.
told you
No,
that
it's
Israel
not.
was a mistake. Israel was a
Right,
mistake. This is
right.
why we have this problem.
So we start
Okay?
from that. That one failed experiment. You can't put no bunch of people in a one place and say we just want to be what we are, and then we start expanding. Are you in agreement with the settlements? Are you agreement
No,
in
I don't agree with what those the hard right are doing. They're going into Palestinians' land on the
and
West
kicking
Bank,
people out of the
taking their
house?
land, shooting them, hurting them, beating up. No, that's wrong. It's a horrible
Well,
situation. It's a horrible situation.
I hear you being at least fair in that way. Because first of all, they should not have gone into Palestine and moved those people out of their home to start with. When the reason they gave was a land for people with no land for people with no land, and from a land with no people, a land with no people for people with no land. Which there were millions and millions there, was proven that they displaced many people. You're admitting that that was a mistake, that was wrong, correct?
Well, that's what the cause of the problem is now.
And
Yeah,
that is the cause of the problem, Jerry. Now,
but
did you hear the real reason why Hegseth, Pete Hegseth was saying they felt they had to attack Iran? Did you hear it?
what
And
did he say? Remind me. What did he
he
say?
said that he thought Israel, America thought that Israel was going. In fact, they had information that Israel would attack Iran. And they knew that if Israel attacked Iran, Iran would attack U.S. assets in the area, as they did, of course. Now, he felt that that was reason for them to preemptively strike Iran and take out all those capabilities. Now, does that make sense to you as a good reason for going to war?
Boy, I can't think for those guys. Then guys,
No, but that
they
one
want
yes or
what?
no. But that one yes or no question, man, because that is coming from the mouth of the spokesperson for Trump. Now, I am sure you will agree with me that Donald Trump has come up short in a lot of areas. Or do you really believe this man is such a brilliant
Well, it
strategist?
seems that whatever he does, at the end of the day, he gets what he wants. He may get what
Uh,
he wants in Iran right now. Apparently, that they don't know if it's propaganda. We'll find out in the next few weeks. Apparently, he said that this is going to end in a week. They want to talk to him already. We don't know if that's true or not, but it will come out in the end. So
And he
let's
will,
see.
and
Time will tell.
you're saying he usually gets what he wants, and that's all right, even though what he wants
It
most
doesn't matter if
often,
it's all right or not. He gets what he wants. He does what he feels
and
is
that makes
what they
it
need to
okay.
do.
And that makes it okay, Jeremiah. Is that why you support him?
It doesn't not a matter of support or what. I'm trying to understand what is going on, and I'm telling you what I think is going on. It doesn't mean that I am supporting the death. Nobody wants to support the death of anybody. Okay, you're asking me why do I think what is going on? Why is America there? I'm trying to tell you. But if I tell you that, then you go immediately, boy, you're a supporter of Trump. You're the supporter of killing of all
No,
those
no, no,
Iranians.
no.
You know?
When I'm start from that, you have admitted
But
that
look
you
at the
support Trump.
40,000 Iranians were killed by the regime. Is that a lie or is that not a lie? Shall we believe that or should we not believe that?
Hold up,
Only
hold up,
believe
hold
what
up,
you want to
hold up,
believe.
hold up. 40,000 were killed by which
Iranian
regime?
protesters
Were
against
killed
by
and
the
it has been
regime.
proven that those were Mossad agents that went in there. American provided the weapons for these people, and that it was a whole setup. And then, in fact, there was no
Okay.
40,000.
You see, so who do you believe? Who do
I
you
don't.
believe?
I listen. That one matter.
It seems that you
Well,
believe
can I
Iran.
speak? Can I speak,
No,
please?
no, no.
I didn't think so because it's against what you believe, which you think is all right. You the one, not a Donald Trump, and I could see why you support him.
Did I
And then you,
say I? Lord, boy.
well,
It's very hard for me to say I support what is going on, but judging from what they are doing, I can understand what they're doing. Okay,
so that
that's
means
what
you
you're
support
asking
it.
me.
Come
Do
on,
you want
Jeremy.
me to just say yes, go in there, kill every bloody
But that's
Iranian,
basically
go to
what you're
Trump and so
saying.
on?
That is
No, I'm
what
not
you're
saying
saying
that.
because
I'm
that
not
is
saying
what
that.
he wants. That is what
I
he has
you
said he wants, and
G
you
Mike, you
say
got to
get
listen
what
to
he
yourself.
want.
You ask me why do I think America is there, and I did try to tell you. I
What
did
are
try
you
to
trying
tell
to
you
tell
why
me?
I think. But if I tell you why I think he's going there immediately, you're saying, "Oh, Spooner, why Spooner, that Trump supporter,
No,
he's
that's not what
supporting
I'm
Trump."
saying. That's not what I'm
Well, that's
saying.
what you are
You
saying.
no,
That's
no,
what
no,
you're
it's not. You
implying.
can't put words in my mouth. I'm not that
I'm putting
stupid.
words in your mouth because that
Yes,
is
you
what you're
are.
saying.
Yeah, listen to me. Ask me what I'm saying,
Huh?
because what
Why did you
you
ask me that question then?
because it's obviously the question that's out there on everybody's lips. What
Yeah,
is going on here, and why is it going on? For
right.
you to now suggest to me that it's okay because Donald Trump
Big up,
gets what
Julia.
yeah, what he usually wants. Let me see. I then probably wants to see a different matter. I wonder if Guatemala decide to invade Belize if they're not happy with the ICJ ruling, which will happen in the next 2 years. What will the U.S. government do? How about giving an opinion on that?
I wonder if Guatemala decide to invade Belize, and if they are not happy with the ICJ ruling, which will happen in the next 2 years, what will the? I would hope that the U.S. government would intervene. I would hope so.
Well, I would
Spank
hope that
Guatemala. But
I
what will
would
happen if the ICJ rules against us? We in trouble.
that but and that argument hypothetical. I would not even want to have that argument. But I'll tell you this: I would hope that Guatemala would not want to invade Belize,
And
and
suppose they do, would you think would you
well,
like
so
the U.S.
again,
government?
I'm not going to have a hypothetical argument with you. It's stupid, ridiculous. We don't know if hair had sense, it wouldn't grow in a body hole. So let me explain to you what I'm saying to you. I would hope Guatemala wouldn't. And the last speech that I heard from the Guatemalan president in at the United Nations, he seemed to be extending an olive branch. He said he wants to have this matter settled with Belize, our neighbor, and he named Belize as a country. I think for the most part, we are more paranoid than anything. We seem to be the one who wants this conflict, and it's stupid. We can't win that. They have 18 million people. We have 400,000. How are
Can
we
I
going
ask
to
you
win?
something? Will you
Yes,
accept the judgment if it rules against Belize?
I don't think we should because we
So
are
what are we
a
going to
country.
do then? If
Well,
Guatemala wins the ICJ and they claim half of Belize,
but again, you're dragging me into the same argument. I
no, I'm
don't
just
think we're
asking you. I'm
no,
just
but
asking you.
see, but no, but you're asking me to run me down a rabbit hole. Cause there's no end to that. We can't. You
No, no,
support
this is just a personal. I just want to know how you
our
would feel
if
about it.
thing. I wouldn't. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think we're gonna win. I
Okay,
don't
but
see
suppose we
any.
lose, would you accept the
I'm
judgment?
not gonna have that argument, Jerry. You're missing it. You're try to put me in on a spot there. I don't think it's gonna happen, so I won't even argue that. But I don't tell you where happening. If I don't, if I'm telling you I don't think it's gonna happen, is that
You
not
don't think
clear
it's
enough?
gonna happen? Okay.
It's not gonna happen. Again, I heard the last speech. I felt it was a comfort. It was encouraging. I don't think that we should be jingoism, embarking on this type of warmongering and saber rattling. I think we were trying to get peace with these people. They are a huge market for anything we can grow. What we ought to be concentrating on is making ourselves self-sufficient, that we don't have to rely on all these outside things coming in and be at the mercy of the global geopolitical crisis that's looming. Because things are gonna, and it already shows that, in particular with the oil crisis, and because of this war, which you are suggesting is okay because of what um, Iran was doing. Am I correct that you're saying that Iran
I
was
didn't
doing
say
so
it's
much?
okay. I'm saying that is what the American who are promoting this aggression that is going on right now. Those are the circumstances that
And you
make
could
them feel they
understand.
have to go in there,
And you
protect
could,
American interests, protect the world oil interest, stabilize the area. They're pro-Israeli. Israeli is their top. Israeli is their boy in the Middle East. The
no,
Arabs
no,
love
no, nah,
the
nah,
Arabs love
nah.
Trump.
I
Saudi
think
Arabia,
I think
Qatar,
it's other way
Kuwait, they're
around.
all on the side of Trump. They all
Because
have American bases there.
when you're done on when Tim Winakota,
Go ahead,
they
talk.
have American bases there, and they have puppet governments in those places that will do whatever Trump says. Now, Israel is not America's boy. America is Israel's boy. Israel run calling the shots. Don't you think? Don't you see what is happening here? And
I
if
tell
that,
you what, I know what the propaganda is out there is that Netanyahu has hoodwinked Donald Trump and making him come into this war. That he's a smart man that convinced Trump that he needs to join in, and that's what the propaganda is out there saying. If you believe that, then go ahead. I don't believe it.
are
I
you
don't believe it.
really think you're saying
I
that a
think it's a
propaganda?
mutual arrangement. I believe it's a mutual arrangement.
And
Okay.
you're thinking that every other president should have done it, but nobody else had the courage to do it. And
Don't
you
get
think that Donald Trump has the courage to do it. Is
Well,
it?
what I'm saying is that every president of the United States has condemned Iran. President Trump is the first one that is doing what he's doing now.
No, no, no.
So I'm
What
just
he's
saying that.
doing, what you are you no, but don't pull punches on that. Trump is the first person that is doing what should be done. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say should be done. I said he's doing what all American presidents would like to do, and they didn't do it.
No, but
Anyway, you got your guest here. Good evening,
yeah,
Jeremy.
Jeremy. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah,
Good evening. Sorry
All
about the
right.
delay. I had some
Uh,
delayed connections.
And that's
we
that's
got
all
two
right, brother.
Jeremys.
Thanks for coming. We have a question there from Rene. What happened to the oil in Belize? You got any information? I don't want to jump right into that with you, Chuck. But Jeremy, you know anybody know what happened with the oil in Belize? Did that dry up? Is that done over with?
Apparently, I heard
I,
the oil is still there, but it's just not. It's too expensive apparently to extract it and refine it. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Jeremy, do you remember when we had those many tankers rolling up the Hummingbird Highway? There were many I can remember sitting by the side of the road there and watch them one after the other going past. Apparently, we took out a number of that went on for about 6 months to a year, I believe, if not more. And I don't know what we saw from that except for a few garbage bins along the highway. That was what I saw. We had never seen no reduction in energy costs or any of that for Belizeans. Is it all right? Let's see what Arden is saying. The USA and Israel are very close friends with Guatemala. We cannot run from the fact in the next 2 years that the court will make a ruling. Okay, nobody's running from that fact. We are hoping that the ruling will come. I just believe that it will be positive on our side. In this day and age, I don't see any fair court. And let's make no mistake, this court is a high court with 15 learned judges, none from Israel, none from America, none from Guatemala. And I like that. So at the end of the day, let us see what happens there. Then we could have that argument. Jeremy, we don't want to get onto the point, and we asked you to come on the show because there's been some development in your case, which is significant. I mean, that's something that's going to affect us in the long run. Give us a hypnosis of what, and your mic is on mute, by the way. Yeah, yeah. Where are we now? What's the development that occurred?
Thanks for having me. The recent development that we have is our historic victory at the Caribbean Court of Justice to overturn the ruling by the Court of Appeals here in Belize, which denied our appeal to reheard the case that we had brought at the High Court for the injunction for the election, but also to appeal the wasted cost that the judge had imposed on my attorney to pay personal cost, what they call wasted cost, for having that matter in court, the matter that we brought for redistricting. So we took the wasted costs to the Caribbean Court of Justice. We took also the procedural and the technical manner in which they rejected our appeal, which means when we took our appeal to the Court of Appeals, the court ruled that in essence we took our appeal too early before the order was perfected by the judge, when in fact the order was signed and perfected. Um, but the Court of Appeal had a different interpretation for the order to be perfected, which meant that the registrar had to also sign on to make the order eligible for appeal. So they rejected an important constitutional case on technical grounds again to say that we had appealed too early and therefore that was rejected, and we appealed for the wasted cost. And they also ruled that my attorney should pay the wasted cost. So we had no choice but to take that to the Caribbean Court of Justice, and they ruled in our favor, that my attorney this that this Court of Appeal must hear our appeal. So that's where we're at right now.
So it's
But
back now in our court, and
yes,
they didn't want to hear it based upon a technicality, but now they're being forced to hear it by the higher court.
exactly. And what we are finding out is that all our cases are ruled by technicalities rather than the substance of the matter. And I think that was meant to frustrate us from the core of our case, which means that we wanted fair representation. That is part of our what our democracy ought to be, and what the Constitution mandates, that we should have fair representation in the National Assembly, which means each and every electoral division um, should have equal or near as equal as possible the number of electors that is in the Constitution. So what we are arguing from the get-go is that the government knowingly violated the Constitution and led Belizeans into an illegal election. Um, and they're in office unconstitutionally. They broke the law knowingly. Knowingly means that the Prime Minister repeatedly promised that he would ensure that there was proper redivisioning of electoral divisions before elections were called. But he went ahead to call election 1 year earlier without having the electoral boundaries redivision in accordance with the Constitution. So uh, every time we took it to court, there was technicalities. It included even that my signature on one of the affidavits was digitally superimposed rather than a fresh signature. But of course, we did that because of the crunch time that we had to get our injunction submitted on February 10th, late in the night, before the Prime Minister called election on February 11th. So there were lots of, I would say, anomalies, lots of um, uh, mistrust at what the judge did. In fact, even during the hearing for the injunction case, the judge, through his unmuted microphone, was heard saying that he would throw out the case and teach us a lesson. One of the attorneys heard that and he swore on that in an affidavit. I reported that to the Judicial and Legal Services Commission as a matter of judicial misconduct. And the Judicial Legal Services Commission was tasked to investigate, and we were not involved in that investigation. They threw out the matter, and we will also have the Judicial and Legal Services Commission in court shortly for the way in which they handled that complaint that we lodged. So there was all of these confusions that happened that really compromised a very important constitutional case um, to get the government to abide by the Constitution.
Jeremy, what I'm getting from this, a very important point, and might indeed be a precedent for cases going forward, because many of the cases that we have lost or that is nulli prosecu, thrown out, is done so not on the basis of the fact of the matter, but some technicality, some rather silly, some whether the man put the handcuff on one hand first instead of the other. Wait, no, that signature that you're saying, the question, wouldn't it have been just as easy as to say to you, Mr. Enriquez, is this your signature? And no matter yes or no,
That
and
is a
move on.
definitely. In fact, I was sitting in court and that matter was not addressed. If the judge had any queries about the signature, he could have called me, put me on the bench, and questioned whether that is my signature or not. I was right there, but he did not do so. And he chose to bring up that matter way afterwards in his ruling. So we found that to be very unacceptable, and we challenged all of that. And when we were, that is, those are the matters we were taking to the Court of Appeals to look at all of um, well, we call them misconduct. Um, and then the Court of Appeals threw it out, and that is why we went to the CCJ. So
Well,
all these technicalities were there to frustrate us, and for some reason, we found that we stated very strongly that we will not want that judge to be a part of our case anymore. We want him recused from our case, and we want our complaint to be heard because there are sworn affidavits um, reporting the misconduct of that judge.
so
Can you refresh my memory? Who was the
okay.
attorney for the government in your case?
The attorney for the government side is Courtney's law firm, Courtney and Godfrey Smith.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so
the crux of the matter in an eggshell, if you will, is that the Constitution states one thing and the government is doing another. Am I correct in saying that?
exactly, repeatedly, the government for the past over 2 decades, successive governments have violated that constitution and have gotten away with it. And this time I decided, even though I used to write about it, the Belize Peace Movement also had a similar injunction case in October 2020, where the opposition party at the time, the People's United Party, was running for election, joined the United Democratic Party to fight against the injunction to ensure that there was proper redivisioning of electoral boundaries before elections. And when the injunction was denied by acting Chief Justice Michelle Arano, um, the government that came in November, the PUP government that won in November, promised repeatedly. That means they recognize that there is a problem that needs to be corrected. They recognize that this is an unconstitutional situation. They recognize that it needed to be corrected. but then they failed to do that. And we will hold them accountable this time to ensure that it is done, but to ensure that the court call out these kinds of unconstitutional behavior and have it on record to ensure that it is not repeated because no government, no prime minister, no minister, no governor general, no one is above the supreme law of the land. And these guys were violating it over and over and over. And I think our win also that we are calling the public's attention to this vast, in fact, is one of the worst in the entire Americas, if not the worst, where you have an electoral division, where you have 65% deviation in electoral divisions. One electoral, like Belmopan, with almost 11,000 electors, or Stan Creek West, similarly with 11,000 electors, have one area representative. Then you have like Fort George, 5 times smaller, or 4 times smaller, with about 3,000 electors. That is unacceptable. International standards for democracy allow for variation between 10 and 15%. And here we have 65%. It's way, way off. So that has to be corrected.
Renee asked a pertinent question. When this comes back down to our court, will it be the same judge that will hear this again, or have you guys put forth some sort of objection to that and ask for a more objective, if you will, judge or a different judge to hear the case?
Well, we're waiting for the reasoning or the details of the judgment from the Caribbean Court of Justice, and they will define what we had just a one page to say, listen, this is the judgment that we have, but later on we will send all the details. So those details will spell out what is expected as a result of the judgment, why the judgment was made this way, and then I guess they will venture into some recommendation. And my suspicion is that the CCJ will recommend other judges to hear the case.
Definitely. Now, certainly the disparity is there. There are, and you pointed out some of the ones with less electorate and some with more. Is the recommendation that we add members to the House of Representatives, or that we just balance it out and make it more even? Like, in fact, put four judges with pick stack that would have more, put one with the other, and maybe split Belmopan into two, and have proper representation. What is the request being made here?
Well, it's not necessary to add more seats. The Constitution allows for between 28 and 31. So there could be, so no more than 31. Adding more seats absolutely makes no sense just because it's going to increase our budget, also, it will increase our spending. If you take a country like Jamaica, in which they have about 2 million or a little over 2 million electorate, and they have 60 area representatives. That goes up to about close to 300,000 or so. I don't remember the number, but a vast number. We have a small country, and even 31 is kind of stretching it, but we have that, and therefore there is various divisions in Belicity that could be combined to make one electoral division. They're very small, in fact, way below what is the number required for a viable electoral division. We have 10 seats in Belicity when, in fact, if you do the math, there should not be more than about six for Belicity. And so different divisions could be combined into one, and then other larger divisions could be split, like Belmopan, Stan Creek West. But also in the Toledo district, they have a very unique geographic situation, which the constitution also allows for to be addressed. You have villages stretched out for about 100 miles. You have from Monkey River all the way to Barranco in Toledo East, for example. And for one area representative to be covering all that is different than walking around in the Fort George division with a few blocks that they could cover in a shorter time. So all of those need to be taken into consideration very objectively. I say that because both political parties are tinkering with this very with a political mindset rather than an objective way in which they could create fair electoral divisions. In fact, I would recommend that it would have been for a more objective body, maybe the University of Belize Policy Research Institute, or a combination of more objective persons than the political representation that we have in the Elections and Boundaries Commission, which is just a representation of both political parties.
Lisa wants to know if you expect this matter to be heard before the next general elections, and if you think it'll affect the town council elections, which probably comes up before, I believe.
Well, the town council and is very different in their representation. You have the town and the town boundaries, so that's pretty much set. So it's not it doesn't have any impact on the town council. Um, But this one has to be done definitely before, in fact, the Prime Minister promised that it will be done within, he promised last year or this year. So I do not see it going further than this year. And the court case, we do not expect, in fact, we have court cases within this year to ensure that we achieve those the constitutional mandate for electoral division.
Spooner, and I want back shout at this 'cause I'm sure you have a few questions yourself.
No, I'm just listening. I just did a little research just to refresh my information, and it's quite interesting. Belize City, no, Belize District has 13 constituencies, but then you look, Corozal has four, Orange Walk has four, Kaya has six, Stan Creek has two, and Toledo has two. And if you add all those populations up, they far exceed what we have in Belize City. So it's
Yes,
disproportionate, isn't it?
Is it? You're
definitely.
saying it is proportionate?
It's disproportionate.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Disproportionate.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the point. Yeah, that's yeah. Let me read what Arden is saying here. Good night, Jerry. What advice would you give to private landowners in the Toledo district? Because some private landowners' lands is being claimed by the Mayan Leaders Association of Julian Shaw Society. What rights do private lands has under the Belize Constitution? That might be segueing a bit, but if it's an
I
answer,
could, I could, yeah, I could
if
answer that.
good, good, good.
Private landowners have rights to their land as private landowners, and therefore, not because the Mayas have their communal land ownership that was also affirmed in the courts. But in our constitution, it is clear that private landowners also have rights, and therefore, I think the challenge will be now as to how to ensure that both rights are respected. There's no one that has rights over another.
That
Is
no easy though. That certainly won't be easy.
Yeah, it, it will take very clear thinking and judgment and very clear because this could be very emotional also.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the Constitution, I also say the Constitution protects both, and both have rights to their land. Private landowners, you have equal rights protected to by the Constitution.
I think if we look at the history and the record, we'll find that many murders are committed over land, if not most murders. The land got something in it, and when people are dispossessed, they get very upset, which might be a part of the wars that we're seeing right now. No,
Yeah, and it's not just community and private owners, but even nations war over
correct,
lands.
correct. That's what I'm saying.
Um,
Yeah,
so that's why I say that is a matter that I guess people just have to recognize that they both have rights, and they have to find a way to resolve their rights to maintain their property ownership.
Ah, yeah.
I guess I've answered the question.
yeah.
Okay. Was it the Caribbean court that gave the rights of communal lands to the Mayas? Is that correct?
They
Okay,
not give, but affirm that because in every jurisdiction worldwide,
yeah,
indigenous people have a right to the land that they occupy, use in a traditional manner, and that is also respected
okay.
in the international courts. Yes,
But our constitution protects private landowners if the claim of communal land for the Mayas exceeds into their private land. Our constitution protects our the private owners. Is that
the
correct?
Constitution protects the private owner. Where there is overlap, that
Yeah.
is where there has to be some kind of perhaps court judgment to see how to resolve the overlapping issues. So I think the
But
problem
Okay.
the problem is not just the private landowners per se, but the the problem will be wherever there is overlapping issues regarding private land ownership and where it overlaps
Okay.
with communal land ownership. So that's where I believe the question might be coming from, and where there needs to be some kind of resolution, and I believe that has to go through the courts.
but
Okay.
We
of
don't.
course, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and if any law, any other law comes around, it's what's the term that's used? And you know the Constitution is
Yeah,
inconsistent. Any law inconsistent is null and void. So,
Okay.
exactly.
and is the Mayan land rights addressed in the Constitution, as far as you know? I don't remember seeing that in there.
Definitely. Yeah, this is addressing the Constitution. The right of indigenous people is also protected by the Constitution, and their land rights is part of it. And that is affirmed right through all the courts, from the High Court with the judgment of Conte to the Supreme Court, to the sorry, Court of Appeals, and then to the CCJ. So all the courts plus international conventions support um, indigenous
Indigenous, but
land
you say
rights.
it's
But
in the Constitution.
also,
Can you point to the where in the Constitution that might be?
I don't have that right now, but
Uh,
as I said, that would be a point that is already cleared right through all the levels of the court. But at the same time, the private land ownership is also protected by the Constitution. So both cases the Constitution protects. So, but the problem is, while the Constitution protects private land ownership and indigenous land ownership, there will be overlapping boundaries, and it is that overlapping boundaries that has to be resolved, I believe, best by the court. It cannot be people, getting into a physical conflict, but a very clear court ruling has to make that happen.
Somebody, one of our listeners, said that Mr. Conte addressed that situation of overlapping. I would, I would say that if our constitution protects the private landowners, and there's the overlap, and our private owners are protected by our constitution, it would be up to the landowners really to concede some of their land if they want to be gracious, right, to the Mayan community, right? It would be up to them, right?
but why would
Well,
one concede to the other? Why? I mean,
right.
Well,
So that's
to
why I
solve
say
the
it needs a
problem, yeah.
court. That would mean that it need court intervention. But here is a deeper problem. I think the deeper problem occurred when there was a neglect by government, because there was government was neglecting um, the recognition of indigenous land rights. Both governments, the UDP and PUP, there is an underlying tone of rejecting. There is even one prime minister who misled the discourse by trying to say we're trying to balkanize, and I think it was a very condescending and discriminatory statement. And even an area representative, it was various government officials trying with a Western kind of thinking to neglect the rights of indigenous people to their land. And the reason is that, as you see in Belize, foreign owners could come, foreign investors, foreign or could come and own huge tracts of land, and then government gets some revenue from this disbursement of thousands of acres. So when that was happening, the Mayas thought that it was best to try to protect before that kind of land grab and that kind of thinking went to alienate them from the land that they traditionally use. And so it was in that context that the government continued to issue more lands before the case was resolved. And so I think now the argument is what part of the lands were part of our communities? And then was there the issuance of titles after the judgment was made to try to undermine the judgment that was already made? So all of those are part of the mix. But how to say, even that there are those mixes, the Constitution protects private landowners. And I want to re-emphasize
Even
that the
even those
conflict,
foreigners that come in and get huge swaths of land. You
even
think
though, yeah, even those, well, they already bought it, it's already theirs, they're protected by the Constitution. And so um, what we're facing more is the overlapping issues. And I think,
you,
as I
you
said,
know
that has to
I
be
Okay.
resolved.
Can I put on my Western ideology hat on here and ask a question? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, who gave the indigenous people of Belize the right to their lands when the British pretty much took this land away from them many, many, many years ago, conquered the area? Who is it? The UN who
Yes,
and oh, it's the UN who gave them that rights.
that those rights are recognized by the United Nations
Okay.
worldwide. It is a convention to go back to, I guess, in a sense, make right the wrongs of
Okay.
colonial injustice. To
yeah,
recognize that, and it's not something new. It's that it's simple. They are already living there. They are already in those communities. It's not that they moved in and say, well, um, let us give them this because they were not, and then bring them in. It is people already living in their property. They are already living in ways that is in accordance with their tradition. And it is just recognizing and saying, all right, you're already there, you lived there for so many years, then, and you don't want it as private ownership, you want it collective, the court respects that. Just like if Mennonites move into Belize and they decide we want to live together in this plot of land, we have to recognize and accept that that is a right of people to own land collectively.
but
And if they want to live in an area with their buggy and cart and say this is how we want to live, the Constitution protects the right of private ownership or collective ownership.
but that borders on balkanization indeed, don't you think? I mean, this we're a small country, a country of Belizeans, and the interests of the people, all Belizeans should be paramount. Don't you agree with that? And I'm leading to a point because if somebody comes in, these people have this huge swath of land, and somebody comes in with a constructive idea for some agriculture, say something to provide something that will be in the best interest of our Belizeans. Don't you think that something like that ought to be considered?
Well, it is being considered. That is how we have big companies like Santander, we have ESR, BSR, people coming and owning thousands of acres, and so that is provided for. Um, so but in a communal setting, it's that's the like the Mennonites, maybe like the Mayas. That is the decision of the community if they want to live, or if you and your family want to own land collectively and say, okay, this is ours as a family, and we want as our right to use it the way our family defines, that is
But
protected by
I
the
don't think they're the
Constitution.
same thing, Jeremy. I don't see that as the same thing. If you
Why
have,
not?
because it would be kind of like one Israeli thing, where they just go
Yeah.
in and decide we want this piece of land for just us exclusively, in another land as such. And even if they are considered indigenous, because many of them, you will agree, had gone to Guatemala and came back to Belize. So who's to say who's indigenous and who isn't?
But even if they go to Guatemala and come back to Belize, if you have a community like San Antonio, which was there since the late 1800s, and
Okay.
they're there, They don't have any title to that land. So what the constitution does is formalize that that village decided that they want collective ownership to the lands there, and that's a
A communal
constitutional
kind
right.
of thing, which
Yeah.
I
So
could understand that. But you do recall the case of this fellow Miles who went down there and was hogtied because he was. But of course, I was not on his side because he was on a sacred mound and something like that. But there, you must admit, in particular, in the face of this current um, comment by this tour guide that has gone viral, that there is a kind of prejudice there, a bigotry in where they don't really welcome other people into that community. And I don't see that as being fair to Belizeans. If they can afford a piece of land there, that their ethnicity should not affect their right to do so.
well, you could argue, we could argue that, but if you go to Spanish Lookout, you can't just go and cut a piece and say, well, you want to live there. Or if you go to Springfield, or you go, because the community, or you go to Barton Creek, you can say, well, I want to live.
Really, I didn't know that. I don't. There are Belizeans who live in those areas, and they ought to
Yeah,
be able to.
yeah, definitely, but it has to go through the leadership council of those communities. You can't go to Spanish Lookout or Barton Creek or Springfield as a Belizean to say I have a right to go and live
No,
there
no, no.
because let me
But you,
hold on, let me
yeah.
finish, let me finish.
Go ahead. Wrap that up.
Because those people have, in their own way, whether we agree or not, decided that this is how we want to live as a group of people, and we will own this land collectively as a group of people. Even individual, even if it is private ownership, I can't go to that man who has 2,000 acres and say, well, I have a right to go. He has his 2,000, some of them fence it up and say, this is my piece of land. So you have to go and ask him permission. There's a process for all land ownership
I,
occupation,
I
whether it's
understand.
private or everything.
I understand that. But so you saying you can't go there is not the same as to say you have to go through a process to go there. Now, if going there and wanting to own a piece of land you're discriminated against because you're not like them, then that's a problem that I have. I I
But
I, I don't see that. It's like, can I? If a Creole person go to Danriga and say, well, we want to own a house, and we see that's not a problem because we have a lot of Creole there anyway. But and then the Garina go come in there and say, well, you can't come here because you're not one of us. Something is wrong with that, Jeremy, don't you think?
yes, yes, but that's not the point though, because I distinguish between private ownership and collective ownership. In private ownership, if somebody owns 100 acres, that is the right of that person with that private ownership to protect his property from
Who
incursions.
would sell a person 1,000 acres? That's the question. And
Oh
for
well,
what
that
would there not be a reason for it? It is done. Listen, I
wait,
understand
wait,
it
hold
is
on,
done.
but I want to finish my point though. I don't want my point to be. So private ownership has the same kind of ethos like collective ownership. If you want to go to a private owner, or if a person owns 1,000 acres, and there are lots of folks who own 1,000 acres in Belize and more, in fact, we have a situation where there are squatters in an area of a person who has thousands of acres and he wants them out. So the point is, whether it is private ownership or collective ownership, there is still a process for trying to occupy that with some kind of permission by the owner. It could we could see it as discriminatory or what, but it's the real world international, whether you go to the United States, whether you go to France, if a person has his private ownership, he
You,
doesn't
you,
want
you,
anybody. It's the
you
same.
sound like Jeremy. No, you can't make because it's like that an excuse for it being like that. We have a right to
Unfortunately, it
question.
is like that by
I but
constitution.
we have a right to question it just as you were questioning the whole restriction, redistricting kind of thing. No, let
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I don't want to straight too far up on the point.
I think we're
Uh,
straying though because I
yeah,
never come as never come
yeah.
this
I
far.
understand. I understand. Now we know that there's a constitutional reform committee still in place. We don't really. I stumbled on a gathering of them the other day at the Biltmore. So I imagine they're still meeting and active. I know they had put forth a budget for a hell of a lot of money, and I don't see why. But does that address at all any of these issues, in particular your issue as far as redistricting? Have they looked at that?
I am not aware that they have looked at that in an effective way. Um, no, I don't know. I'm not aware of that. But what I do know is that the Constitution, as it stands, was violated. We have a government that is illegal and unconstitutional, and they're running a country after um, violating the law. They broke the law. So we have I could say, guys who unlawfully entered office, but also people of Belmopan, people of Stan Creek West, other divisions could sue the government for being there, for not being properly or not being represented
Ably
as
represented, yeah.
mandated. So if actually there could be some more lawsuits on the government and to ask them to not just to correct this, but that this has to stop. Um, Interestingly, government is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with on attorney and high-priced attorneys to fight against the constitutional right of the people for fair representation.
Do
And
you
here we
think is
have
there? What do you think is their rationale? Why are they fighting it? They must have some reason or put for some reason why they don't want it to happen. What is their excuse that they're giving?
why both political parties resist strongly. I think because they inherit a colonial system where Belize City was the power base, and they want to maintain that power base and completely disregard the changing realities of the country. They inherited a historical situation where, in fact, Belize City at the time was rightly the power base, and it had the population based on everything. But as the country grew in other districts, they're completely disregarding those realities and want to maintain this inequity and then
They're in
unfair
a comfort
representation.
zone, if you will. I don't want
Yes,
ruffle the
yes.
feathers.
And they've developed a kind of an oligarchic entitlement so that you have, that is why Belizean attorneys also would not, it was hard to find any Belizean attorney to try to make this unconstitutional matter right because they benefited from the system. A lot of these Belizean attorneys got their scholarships and went to study with the people's money because of their alignment with one political party or another, or families of these political parties. And so they're also compromised and they cannot look beyond their own comfort zone to fight for the rights of all Belizeans for fair representation as it mandated by the Constitution.
Lisa is suggesting that what she's asking is the redistricting in the Belize and Stan Creek district, the only two districts with population imbalances where electoral votes are not reflected properly in the population
No, no, not at all.
across the country,
There's
no?
Yeah, the Stan Creek West. I mentioned the unique situation of the Toledo district. There are some
Corozal, is there
regulation
is there
Cayo.
any?
Corozal tend to be more balanced, Orange Walk, but there's Cayo, Belize district, Stan Creek, and Toledo districts need some rebalancing.
Interesting. What is the recommendation of your group in this? You're not alone, obviously, in your demand for this. I hope you're not alone. But what is the recommendation to remedy it? You have said that you don't think they should increase the number of representatives in the House. What would be the way to remedy this?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, for example, Belmopan could be split, Stan Creek West could be split, some areas in Belize City could be joined, and but it has to be looked at in a very, as I say, clear, objective way. And my concern is that the representation on the Election and Boundaries Commission, being both political parties, might In fact, they have failed us consistently. They have failed. I need to put that on the record by not having this done even in over 2 decades when it is supposed to be done. And so um, that is why we also have the Election and Boundaries Commission in court as an interested party for this. But um, we hope that they could look at this very fairly, clearly, objectively, and get it done.
How would you handle the areas that have these many villages stretched out over a wide area, and which is why you have I believe Stan Creek West area that many of the villages are under one representatives, but they're so far apart, and the numbers are not that significantly different in those areas. Well, how do you address that?
I think that has to be that has to if the Election and Boundaries Commission could there was an expert that did a proposal for how the Elections and Boundaries Commission could do the redistricting. This is Sean Trend report. That was shelved, even though um, that was the most objective proposal that I've seen so far. What the Elections and Boundaries Commission presented was really off, way off. It did not address the issue of the 10 to 15% um, deviation as is required by international standards for democracy. So um, I would look at the Sound Trend report, or I would have other experts deal with that rather than the commission itself. Some those who are expert in it, even if you draw them from abroad, to come and look at it in a very objective way and get it done.
If I could add some information to the conversation, Belize City, okay, has 13 constituencies, and the population of the Belize district is 65,000 people. Corozal has 4 constituencies, and their population is 46,000 people. Stan Creek has 2 constituencies, and their population is 46. Hold on. Where is it? Stan Creek has 48,000 people. Okay, and they have 2 constituencies. Just
Well,
a, yeah.
good point. But there's another thing to also consider that the Constitution is not looking at the census of total population in these areas. That is why they mention electors, the number of electors per division. And according to the Representation of the People's Act, an elector is a person duly registered to vote. That is why when we have elections, the elections department compile by electoral division how many registered persons are there in these electoral divisions, and therefore our whole this whole argument about the malapportionment means that there are far more electors in one area than another, and so the redivisioning is to be done by electors, which is what the Constitution says. Even though in other countries they're doing it by total population, but our Constitution, like other Caribbean territories, looks at the number of electors.
Yeah, which is interesting because you're saying that if there's an area that don't have people who are voting, like I imagine many of the villages would have people that are they just don't give a damn enough to even go register to vote. Shouldn't they, instead of ostracizing, embark on a campaign to get these people to understand why it is necessary for them to register and vote?
That is why well, unfortunately, there is no strong civics education in school, and there is no training for people to learn how to participate in democracy. They become 18, and then all of a sudden, on their own, sometimes not making the conscious decision to see the value of their vote. And that is what politicians play on, to pay people to vote, to give them incentives to vote,
Yeah.
rather than if there was a civics training, civic pride, training citizens to participate in our democracy. That is a big flaw in the system, and politicians tend to play on that also.
I wish Lisa would put that one up because she was talking about something that I think the prime minister said $6 for something. I don't know, but let's see what Arden is saying here. Redistricting will allow recently migrated Central Americans to gain more seats. Look at demographic of Belmopan and Stan Creek West and Toledo West. If we are to add more seats in these districts, um, I don't know.
That's
You
that's a huge flaw in thinking. Just because, for example, because there's the argument that people are coming in from other areas to reside in these large electoral divisions, why does that mean that the people from Placencia, from Saint Bite, from Hopkins, from Georgetown, Silkgrass, Pomona, why does it mean that their representation must be diminished? That is an argument that shows that because of that, we have to ensure that those people in those areas have an area representative also. Likewise in Belmopan. Why must it be that we in Belmopan cannot have fair representation because of an argument that, oh, there are others who coming in? In fact, it flips the arguments to show that because there are others who are registered Belize and they are citizens of Belize, we cannot alienate the others, our other Belizeans who are also here. So that flips the argument, and they need to think about that kind of an argument, because what is happening is that people from Placencia, Saint Bite, all those villages that I call out are not adequately represented in the National Assembly.
let me see. Lisa has put this back up. She has a question. The opposition leader in a press conference used a figure of $6 or so per person in her constituency with funds received by her office. With that said, how would that number per person change with redistricting and with the fund stretch more or less? I don't know what that $6 is about. What is she saying? It costs $6 per person. Um,
Well,
I
I
think she said
imagine
she
that
receives a grant every month,
and
and
based upon the number of
yeah,
persons, $6 per person, she gets that grant to
yeah,
serve her constituency.
yeah. But that
Uh,
money is not to help everybody; it's just to help those cases that really need it. If I'm not mistaken.
are people in her who she felt vote for them, or is that
I imagine, yes, he's talking about the Constituency Development Fund, which, or the Community Constituency
the vote,
Development
the
Fund,
community vote?
yeah,
Yeah.
which the government allocates to each area representative,
Mhm.
um, depending on the number of electors in their area. But what I did also as part of my whole understanding of how our like governance and elections work is to request from the Ministry of the Prime Minister's office and the Ministry of Finance to information about the Constituency Development Fund, how it is used, how much is allocated per constituency. And that in itself was very revealing, um, revealing in that constituencies in Belize City per capita we're getting more from this constituency development fund than areas like in Stan Creek West, Belmopan, Belize Rural, South. They were getting per capita less. So it is the funding is off. It's not balanced just because if you look at as a kind of a measurement, a per capita benefit from these funds, you will see that it is also imbalanced. So
Yeah,
you get
you
more
go ahead.
money for a small constituency per capita than and less for the larger constituency per capita.
But if you
Is
get
that
six
is that
dollars, if
fund a
that's six
fixed
dollars per
fund?
person, that don't make sense.
Is that fund a fixed fund, or is it the fund is dependent on the size of your constituency? It's a fixed fund, true?
It depends on the size of the constituency, but I think it is randomly done just because, and I have the breakdown. You will have like even the prime minister, he gets the most 25,000, but he argues that I travel about, so I need to get more so that I could distribute. And I think that itself is wrong because the fund goes to constituencies and the area representative, and so there should be for the if the prime minister wants to argue that he should get more, that should be from another
Source.
ministerial allocation or all of those sources, rather than he claiming to have more than the others. I think that is wrong in itself.
But it's $6 per person
It's
because
not six
again,
dollars actually. It's not $6. It is not
but
more
there's a
than
figure. There's a figure.
there. Oh, it would be like the largest figure would be Mesopotamia with about
So
four dollars
it
and 25
varies from
cents.
constituent to constituency. I mean,
Definitely. For example, Mesopotamia, which is the smallest constituency, if you divide the community development fund per capita, they will be getting like $4.25 per person. But if you look at the largest constituency, which is Stan Creek West, they would be getting $1.83 per person.
so there's no set figure as such. Everybody gets a certain amount. Is it that every constituency gets a certain vote? Is that it? As
Every
opposed,
every constituency gets between 10 and $20,000 per month.
and what's the what's the criteria for that as far as you know? Um,
It's just an allocated amount that this
but just
administration.
on the whim of it, there's no rationale for it. There's no well, maybe this area is more
Well, I
impoverished
think
than the other.
they did some rationale. The smaller constituencies like Albert, Mesopotamia, would get like 10,000. Larger constituencies like Belize Rural South would get 20,000. Mid those in the middle will get like 50. So it ranges 10, 15, 20. So if you have very small numbers, you get 10,000. If you get very large numbers, you get 20,000 max per month. But even as they did that, they're trying to do that. I imagine to try to have some kind of equity. But still, if you run the numbers for a constituency, you will see, for example, even though Stan Creek West would get 20,000, the per capita, because of the size of that division, would be $1.87. And even though Mesopotamia will get 10,000, which is half that amount, but because of its small size, the per capita will be like 425, $4.25. So if you measure $4.25 in Mesopotamia as against $1.83 in Stony Creek West, you could see the vast discrepancy. Stony Creek West getting less than half.
The only thing with that, of course, is that it's not spent equitably like that. And the
No, no, no.
question,
But it's just a measure. It's a rough
I
measurement.
know, I know. The
Yeah.
question is there any oversight as to how this money is spent? And if it does go towards needed projects or things that benefit the people as opposed to um, personal friends, if you will, and sycophants and those who support them in the election bid. Is there any oversight at all for that?
I sent a Freedom of Information Act request to find out how those monies are allocated, how they're spent, what is the process, what is the oversight process, how do they measure outcomes. That information was not provided to me. All they did was I requested that information sometime in October. They were supposed to present that by November, as we agreed. They asked for an extension. We gave an extension all into January. And after those several weeks of waiting, all we got was a one-page document saying this is what each area representative get per month. We felt that as an insult after we were very accommodating, thinking that we will get the information that we asked for under the
You were specific in your request.
very
As
specific in the
yeah,
request, including requests for how do they manage these funds? What are the
Correct.
oversights? What is accomplished over time? All of these things, and we felt very undermined. We felt that the government also that kind of condescending behavior of information that people should know because this is people's money. And I remember even asking, how much are you spending to defend? How much are you spending in court to pay high price to pay attorneys to fight against the redistricting? We have not gotten that figure yet. We appealed to the ombudsman. The ombudsman agreed by law and by constitution that we should get that information, and still we haven't gotten that information.
Instead of getting you the information, they remove the ombudsman. Is that what
That's
happened,
it.
right?
That is
So,
what happened. Yes.
yeah, I
So
mean, a terrible situation, but a very complex problem, and I'm happy that you at least spend some time to try to give you a clear understanding of what's going on, because there are many more questions than answers to this one.
yeah,
And
you know, when I got into this, I thought this would be like a easy,
walk in the park, no?
yeah, because they know that they're wrong. The court would naturally rule that the election would be constitutional, unconstitutional. They would do the redistricting before election. It should have been very clear, and but the technicalities of even the courts made us suspicious that there is some kind of collusion between the government and the court, and that is why we want the recusal of that judge. We felt compromised in a case that was solidly on our side, because it was a constitutional matter that needed to be corrected, especially that the prime minister knowingly violated the constitution. Knowingly means that he had repeated right through the term between 2020 and 2024 that yes, this has to be done. We cannot continue another election under this kind of arrangement. He agreed, he said that publicly, and then turned around and violated the constitution.
Well, I have
Um,
to commend you, Jeremy, because in Belize, a lot of people are frightened to challenge the government. They're frightened to speak out, and you're a very rational man. I mean, you're an educated man. We've got a lot of rebels out there who say all kind of things and so on. But you're somebody that knows what you're doing and knows what you're saying, and I personally appreciate that because there's not enough voices out there. So
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jeremy, I imagine.
It's been a difficult struggle, yes,
I
but
can imagine. I can
yeah.
imagine what you're going through. Yeah.
I,
I like the advertisement that was placed with for this talk show showing me playing a guitar and all these
Oh,
oh,
papers behind.
yeah, yeah.
that's
Listen,
CY, right? That's CY did that, right,
yeah,
G-Mike?
yeah, see why it responds to what I hear. Right? I imagine you're encouraged by the recent developments in the court over there. Are you confident that moving forward we might get somewhere with this, and that the next time it's tried in court, we might have more favorable results towards an end?
I'm very confident, especially because of the ruling of the CCJ vindicated us. We're saying these things all along, and we had the highest court rule in our favor. So I'm very confident. And but also I know deep in their hearts the government knows, the prime minister, the ministers, they know that they violated the constitution. They know that they are wrong, and so I don't think that they. And I think they respect that they're being called out in a sense. I know if they were found, if they would have tried to find some way to discourage and frustrate me, but I'm not frustrated. I'm going to move forward with this to see this to the end to ensure that this will never happen again, that a government will openly and blatantly violate the Constitution that they swear to uphold. They come into office, put their hand on the Bible, and they swear, I'm going to uphold it. And then such hypocritical moves that they don't do that. There's another big issue that is worth tackling also, is that we're having these annual budget preparations and debates without an audit. For the past 10 years or so, there's no audit. How do we know that monies are properly spent? How do we account for these monies that are being spent? Let me continue and prepare budgets and all that. if you're working in an organization and you're trying to allocate more funds for your work, whether you're funded by some international agency or whatever, um, they will want to see an audit, your audited report. Even if you have a business, you want to audit and see how your monies were spent, and then you are able to budget carefully, and then you refine the way in which you're spent. But there's another big problem that needs to be challenged, but
But
there's just so much we want to.
even without the auditing, then they go back with a supplemental
That's what I'm
budget
saying.
for more
Yes,
money and
exactly.
just vote it for themselves. I mean, I think that one big sham, and it doesn't have to be looked at.
So
Um,
yeah, we have a broken system that needs to be fixed.
yeah, but and I think another area we have to look at Germany is campaign financing.
Yes,
These people with this huge sum of money that there's no accounting for and just be handing out $50 per vote. We need to look at that from both sides. Them giving it out and we, the electorate, taking it. And instead of, and this is why we're in the bind we're in. Instead of
exactly.
getting representatives that will represent us, there we are beholden to them for that leave money. Don't pay away, so you not got nothing to say. And every time you try to say something, they give you and leave more.
Yes.
Has there been any attempt, and I don't know if you'd be at liberty to say this, to quiet you in any way?
No, not at all. I
Good.
am not going to be bought, and I guess they must have seen that vibes from it. But there's no attempt. No
Good.
attempt has been made by any political party, and that would be to their embarrassment because I'm not going to be bought by any political party or anyone. I stand by the Constitution, and our national anthem always talk about the might of truth. So for me, the might of truth that I have is the Constitution.
And a
And
fighter of honor. A
Yeah,
fighter
can I
of honor.
can I
so,
This.
can I ask
yeah,
something? Can I ask just for our listeners too and for myself? Who is Jeremy A. Enriquez? Where are you from? Belize, and what is your background?
uh, good question. I right up from I from PG. I born and grew in PG. I was born. My parents, my father was a teacher, and then I come from a long line of teachers. The Garifuna teachers who used to move all around the country to teach. So my grandfather was a teacher. My aunts were teachers. So I was fortunate to be surrounded by teachers in my whole upbringing. My father being my main teacher. In fact, when I used to go to school, I was always ahead of the class, so much so that sometimes they want to jump into other classes, but I would have been too young. So I had to find ways to sometimes go to school and just read books while the teacher is teaching because I would have already learned that from my father. So I went to school in PG. I was very actively involved in PG. I used to teach in the high school there. I used to teach. I also used to train on my part time. I used to train youths to play guitar, keyboards. I used to train and teach music. In fact, the first two guitarists that Andy Palacio used as he was starting his career to accompany him were persons I trained from scratch. They did not know how to play, and I trained them and had them to accompany him when he was just launching his career way back. Um, I also was very close to, in my earlier life, very close to the Jesuits, and I got a lot of influence and formation through my association with the Jesuits, and I really appreciate that. And Father Stoker was a spiritual director of mine, for example, like Father Ring, Father Kramer, all of those. So I had that kind of a unique experience. And one Jesuit also um, introduced me to a very deep form of meditation. It's called Vipassana, where you go through these courses and spend 10 days of silence or 20 or 30 days of complete silence and meditation and guidance. So those were part of my formation as an educator. I also served as a consultant. I worked briefly in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be this was in the early 1990s as a trainee diplomat. Um, Only two brief stints I had in the government, and I couldn't like it was very confining and it wasn't very um The experience wasn't for me, so I worked as a consultant with. Currently, I serve as the chairperson of the board of directors of TIDE. I was a founding member of TIDE, the Toledo Institute for Development and Environment. I have taken other advocacy issues also in education. I was also very involved in the Maya land rights movement way back, supporting their claims through the court system. I was kind of behind the scenes providing some kind of advice and all that. As I would do to any other organization, I was in SPARE, I was in the Belize, I was in the board of SPARE, I was in the board of Belize Police Environmental Law and Policy Organization. I was on the board for the Belize Zoo. So I've served in many other capacities, but all to try to advance development in different ways, and I've seen my impact in through those organizations and made a difference there. So
Ever run for
I live in
politics?
Belmopan, married, three sons. So
Yeah.
Any aspirations for political career? Have you thought
I
about it?
actually I actually thought about that in the early 90s. There was a group of us that was trying to form a new political party. And then we realized the big hump, how do you cross that hurdle of for the kind of resources needed to support a political party, financing and all of those. And then we guys were starting our young families, and so I decided that that's not something I wanted to do. I've been invited by both political parties at different times to consider joining them, and I did not do that because I didn't want to be aligned with any of them. I wanted to take on issues in a more non-aligned way. So, all to answer your question, no, I am not considering any political party, but I will consider. I'll still continue my work to call government to accountability and transparency in various ways. So that's what
Do
I'm
you
going to
think
do.
do you think there's a chance for a third party in Belize? Do you think with the two ones that are established, is there hope for a third party in Belize?
You know, in all former British territories, United States included, the system seemed to be locked into a two-party system. All former British territories, if not, or almost all, they're locked into this two-party system. And to break into that will take uh, a long-term commitment. So you can't just, what the failure of our third parties in Belize is that all of a sudden they crop up just before election and they just grab people to say, all right, please run here. And then it fizzles out. It needs a commitment by a group of really committed persons in the long term, supported by the kind of financial resources needed. Uh, if and then also being able to make their connections with people right throughout, taking on issues. Also say that it cannot work if people just try to quickly form a party 1 year before election and just scramble around and find that will never work. And so if I was to form a party, I would be looking at the long term. I would be looking at the resources needed. I would looking at the persons in each electoral divisions, looking for the highest quality of representation, and also being able to support them in establishing their roots in each of these electoral divisions. And I think that would be a winning formula, if that was my interest.
A big part of the problem, of course, is the financing that you mentioned. And
Yes,
how would you be able to do that without being beholden to your financiers or those who would donate to the cause? And would
I
that not have to go hand in hand with us trying to convince people and the electorate themselves understanding that their demands cannot be what it was before? Because obviously
definitely.
that doesn't work, you
Of
know?
course, um, first of all, one of another big problem we have in Belize is that political parties are not registered entities. They're continuing to operate. There's no um, accountability measures. There's nothing that they report about how much funds they receive from who. Um, so that has to be corrected also. And then once that is done, then perhaps there could be some kind of budget allocation to support political parties after they achieve a certain threshold that would be defined. So as it is, it's not going to work.
Let
Uh,
me let me pick your brains on a couple of other things. And before that, you mentioned the influence of the Jesuits. Are you Catholic? Have you maintained that religious aspect?
no, I consider myself as non-religious, but I've benefited from deep insights and being able to critically analyze religion and the impact of religion on the life of people. And so I don't consider myself religious and following the rituals that I used to follow. I said that all to say that that was how I grew up and that was my formation. And then from there, I moved on and I'm able to appreciate all religions and all ways and just draw from um, different spiritualities for
Well,
me to be able to ground myself. And I think that is the strength that I have, and that is what has also kept me fearless to take on these issues because I see life as not just me. I don't take things personally. I know people, some people don't like what I do because of their own level of consciousness and awareness. So people can only respond to life to their level of awareness. So I take on in my personal life, for example, I don't drink, I don't smoke, never been drunk in my life. So I take on these values for my own mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And so, and I think part of the challenges in our country is that people are chasing pleasures and then they become attached to that and people and politicians can play on that. You want a beer to vote for me, you want rum, you want, and then their minds become weak and they're manipulated easily. So people have to find ways to strengthen themselves from mind altering substances like alcohol and drugs and focus on really deepening their connection with themselves and find out if what they're doing is beneficial or if it is destroying themselves. Even the food you eat, the things you take in your body, i- all of these things not only affect you, but it affects the generations that come from you. And therefore, people have to live consciously and to be able to see very clearly right from wrong and those who are trying to trick them and those fraudulent people and all those kinds of things that will undermine the quality of their life. And so in the big picture then, my struggle is to ensure that people's quality of life and their well-being are not undermined by one set of greedy, selfish, egotistical people. And so, in a sense, I'm fighting for that kind of justice so that we can have not just proper representation, but also a um, fair and equitable benefits from the nation's wealth.
on the spiritual side, I find people fall in basically three categories: atheists, agnostic, believers. Where would you put your life?
I try not to categorize my own being because each person must find their path and find what is the best for them. So I don't try to put that kind of a label or any kind of label on myself. But
Let
what I do um, understand is that people could say there's a quote in the Bible that says, "Not all who says Lord, Lord will enter the kingdom." I'm using that because it's just from a Christian point of view, and I guess in this season that is supposed to be honoring the virtues, the values of Jesus, for example, in a religious way. People, those who are in, but it is a kind of a, the kind of it's not all to say Christmas, Easter, and all of these are really just for business.
Well, they're
It has
pagan
nothing to
holidays to
do.
start with, I believe. But you
Yeah,
answered the
it has
question.
nothing to do with Jesus.
You,
Christmas is
you
for
answered
business
the
people to make
question.
more sales.
You answered the
Yeah,
question without answering the question, obviously. And I never press you on that.
yeah.
National Bus Company, a good idea, or is it trying to forge a monopoly where we should have competition?
Well, one of the things about good thing about it is not all the bus owners are with the are not joining the national bus company as is their right. So
Should, but you don't
they
think
could
they should?
provide.
You think they should reserve that right? Because again,
Yes, they
everything
have a
should.
right to operate. They have a right to operate as their own entity. That is a right.
But
They cannot be forced.
what about the interests of the commuters? What about the interests of the people? If it's going to provide, because at the end of the day, is you being able to get from point A to point B,
Exactly.
in good time and at a good cost. I think that is important. Now,
Yeah, exactly.
if they can show us, and they're talking about bringing in electric buses, and I don't know how that's going to affect the price of fuel going up because obviously they use less fuel, no? But I don't know. Don't you? It is time for an upgrade.
Of course.
But to suggest that they have the right to operate like that. But if they aren't up to standard, should they not be demanded to come up to standard so that the people are better served?
Of course. Of course. And I think the market will take care of that. When we get in the electric buses and all of that, people will hopefully find more comfort in those rides. And so that will also be an incentive for those who are private owners to also try to find better buses in order to compete. So the market will take care of the supply and demand. So
Interesting. Jeremy, you got any thoughts on that? On that bus thing? I heard Mr. Gilhari, and I wasn't impressed with his presentation.
Yeah.
But again, he's saying the same thing you're saying, Jeremy. They have a right to do it. And uh,
Well, I think the Belize City bus have been very well enjoyed by the commuters. They're nice and clean. They're on time. They don't stop at every spot. They have designated areas like how it should be. So our national bus service that's government operated, if they can bring the standards and maintain those standards that the private sector cannot, I'm all for it.
I hear you. Good point. Jeremy, recently, this has gone viral where a tour guide, a Mayan guy, by the way, and this guy Mess, made a comment quite derogatory. And I see no real excuse being drunk and having a fight with his wife, which are the reasons he gave. Any comments on that? How do you see that? And is it time we have this big conversation about racism in Belize?
I think very much so that these conversations need to be brought to the fore. What has been happening is that we still have remnants on beneath the surface racism in different pockets of our country, and I'm surprised also that um, that this is not yet open discussion in the public. To It is these incidents though provide that opportunity for open discussion. We need to address those historical remnants of racism. It is not, and it is not only the utterance of that Maya. There are even elite schools in Belize City whose students carry those kinds of undertones of looking down on others and discrimination. Um, or at these elite schools in
But
Belize
I hope
City.
you're
There
not.
are people.
I hope you're not saying it's encouraged in these schools.
It's not
Uh,
encouraged because it is not, but it is not discussed. It is a
it is not
subsurface
discouraged.
kind of, yeah. It is not discouraged and it is not openly discussed. All of these things have to be brought out as even as a life skill, as people to understand more the value of humans. And I think there's so much focus on the academic subjects, but they're not building the deeper awareness of the individual to be ready for life and to be ready to interacting with each other in this multi-ethnic, multicultural nation that is Belize. But I say this because I know of students who have experienced within their schools the kind of condescending behavior by other students. They have no way to report it and they feel uncomfortable. Um, it was the way we from the south used to feel when we used to come to Belize City and would go to interact in Belize City way back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Um, the way we were treated was very uncomfortable, very racist, and so I see a resurgence. I don't know why, but there's a quiet resurgence. So the utterance of that Maya is probably reflective of others who have that same kind of thinking but are not saying it. Or they would say it only in their group and or within their own communities.
I would
That
not.
has to be.
I would not say that is not true. That does happen and still happens. I don't consider it a resurgent. And
Yeah,
if there was a positive in all of that is from if you look at the comments on Facebook in particular of most people, I see very few people. I see people using other examples of wrong to try to make this right, but I don't. I see for the most part people condemning it, and we don't. We have no. There's no part for that here. What surprised me is that he did not recognize Bella Zabane, who represented us on the national and international scene. And so
exactly.
you would think that he would have recognized her, but you refer to her as a tourist. And
Right.
then again, now we're not going to give any energy to, or
I,
to
I
that
saw a
comment.
lot of comments from Spanish and Mayan people saying that they always wonder how come the outburst and pushback is always greatest when there's prejudice against black people in Belize, as opposed to when there's a lot of prejudice against the Mayas and the Spanish. Those are a lot of the comments that I also read. It seems that only when a black person is being prejudiced or discriminated against, there's a bigger uproar than the other way around. So I
I
noticed
think
that. I also noticed a long time ago, I had a Maya lady working for me, and I asked her, was she catchy and Maya? And she was very offended when I mentioned that I thought she was catchy. Valentino Shell was on Rosalie Stain's program long time ago, and she asked him, "Are you catchy?" And there was a big silence, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." So there is even prejudices within their own communities, and so
Well, that's what that shows, really. And
yeah.
bigotry, that's something that I don't know if they're not a part of us that we have to work to get out. Certainly, it's developed by our environment because I find that many people like that, what makes them emboldened to make such comments is because they have already discussed this with others, amongst
Mhm.
themselves, and our prevailing train of thought.
Yeah,
It's
I
unfortunate.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
think
him calling the black the black lady, the contestant for the universe, comparing her to a monkey. He must realize that he's not educated. You don't call black people that. That's a very offensive. You could call me a white person monkey. I won't get offended or anything like that. But if you call a black person, that has been used to subhumanize them from way back. So it's deep inside of them. So when you say that to them, there's an immediate reaction to that. So
You mean like Trump representing the Obamas as apes?
yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Well, that too, that offended a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons why you don't do things like that. You don't do things that
well,
is very sensitive to the black community because that has been pushed in their face for generations. You know.
all to say that now is the time for a bigger national discussion to be able to iron out these issues, even within the schools. And there's a time to bring these to the fore to be able to get this ironed out and to get people to recognize that as our common humanity, we need to move beyond all of these kinds of condescending labels and to
Uh,
On
walk in
our
love.
podcast, we bring it out a lot. We talk a lot about racial
Yeah, that's
discrimination, don't we,
of course.
G Mike?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeremy, as a teacher, former teacher, and you're still teaching because you gave us some lessons this evening. But do you believe our education system is adequate? And you speak of what should be taught in the schools as far as the racial issues and whatnot. But shouldn't the Constitution be taught in the schools, be more prominent in the lessons,
exactly.
you think?
Exactly.
I think it
That's
should be.
something I want to. The Constitution should be an integral part. And in fact, that was part of the manifesto 2020 of the People's United Party to be able to get the Constitution and civic education in school. They pledged that in their manifesto. So far, I'm not aware that that has been effective or is being done. So that has to be a part of our education system, definitely.
And I think it's also incumbent upon grown-ups to take the time to read it and see what the fuss with you is all about. What are you trying? Because you can agree or not agree, but you need to at least know what the topic and the subject matter is. So
Exactly.
it's
I
Holy Week.
propose,
Go ahead.
yeah,
No, no.
I also propose that the media,
Oh yeah,
the big media take little, even if it's 2 minute clips of lessons each time to present a part of the Constitution
good
and
idea.
to just say what it is about and another, just like ads, instead of
Yeah.
advertising for rum and all that, they could advertise just the Constitution step by step, every just 2 minutes a day, 2 minutes with different parts.
And
That would be
break it
awesome.
down so that the layman could understand it because it's written by lawyers most and
Exactly.
even I
Right.
have problems sometimes understanding it and interpreting it. I have to keep reading it over and over because they keep telling you go to this subdivision here and it just
Of
throws
course.
you down, 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 down. It gets confusing after a while.
I could
Right.
understand you, but it's not the reason. I'm not. No, listen. um, but the government could take some of that vote money and make some commercials, like you're saying, because the
Of
media is not
course.
going to do
Of
it for
course.
free. They're not because
No,
they're
no, no. That's
yeah.
definitely. It should
It'll
come
be
from the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs.
it'll be money
That
well
should be a
spent.
mandate.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. And certainly, visitors coming into our country should be made to understand to some of the key points and what we can expect or not expect of them, and let us move forward.
Exactly.
Jeremy, I want to bid you a very happy Easter. We're almost out of time. Any point that we did not cover that you'd like to speak on? Anybody you
Well,
want to holler at?
as you mentioned, since you say this is Easter
Holy
week,
Week.
Holy Week, then I would like to encourage people to see what the meaning of the week is, what it is. I'm not talking about religion this time, but there's a deeper essence of as to why this is Holy Week, and it does not involve ways to destroy oneself. It should be a call, and the churches are feeling miserable, I should say,
You
in
mean
allowing.
don't get drunk. Don't
Yeah,
drink in
don't
excess.
drink, don't go fight up, don't go abuse others, don't use this as try to withdraw into yourself and find what is the meaning of your own life and how would you like to heal your life? How would you like to live a life that is beneficial for you and by extension beneficial for others, if I could use it that way? How could you find that connection with a deeper awareness of yourself?
Time of
So that
reflection.
and so you
Reflect. Yeah.
take some time to reflect on even the meaning of the life of Jesus and what he was trying to teach rather than the singing and dancing and praising him without really connecting to what is the deeper meaning of those words and his actions. I use it for that time, and then that is what makes the week holy. Otherwise, it is another useless, hypocritical way
Which
of.
it goes against what many are thinking. Many are telling you just believe on Jesus, call on the name of Jesus. But there
That
has
is
to be
right.
more than that. There has to be deeper than that, Jeremy. You,
Exactly. Like, Carl, as I said. It is
Lord,
not
Lord, it will
only
not get
saying
you in
Lord,
there,
Lord
right?
to
Yeah,
enter, you've got to get into that kingdom within. And so people must
exactly.
give it that time. And if we don't, the nation will continue along the same path of all the destruction and the darkness and all of that. And so I call also on all those religious leaders to be able to find better ways to center people rather than this external preaching at people, but getting people to also feel the deeper meaning of the messages that are taught.
All right, let me. I don't know where you're
I'll
going to
leave on
spend the
that.
Easter, but I want to invite
Well,
you to Boom on Monday because Monday, the Boom, big things on Monday.
horse
Of course,
race, no?
we got the horse race there, but the Brown has a Belizean American event there that Edwin Yearwood, one of the bigger soca artists. On
Okay.
the cross country race, of course, most people are rooting for Belizean to win, but I just said I want to see one good race run. And if you watch the intricacies of that sport, you will realize that there's a lot more than just having no who to win, enjoying the race on a whole. And let's hope everybody's safe over the holidays. From myself, from Jeremy, from Joe Cowie, and from Gregory. Those two are took off the Easter week, and we can't blame them too much. But Jeremy, you made it a wonderful experience. We want to thank you very much. Jeremy, any thoughts, any
Thanks.
wishes you want to send out on your own?
Thanks very much
Which
for having
Jeremy?
me. And the
You,
two Jeremys here.
you know you name Jeremy too. I'm just realizing that. So yeah. All
No,
right.
just the usual, a safe and a happy Easter holiday. And
Wonderful.
I'm not
And
into the religious part, but
we,
it's a
we
good.
know that. We know
But like
that.
Jeremy said, it's a good time for people to reflect what it's all about too.
Exactly. And Jeremy, it's not too late for you to change your name. CY, we're done here.
Thanks
Okay,
very much.
okay, Jeremy, nice being on the
Come
show
on.
with you on G Mike.
Yes. Thanks.
Good night.
Right.
Please.
Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the
And Monday morning to it, boom.
nor
Boom is
standeth in
going
the
to be
ways of sinners,
stroking.
Okay. I'll look into what Boom has to say on Monday.
Yeah, man.
his delight
Where is it happening on Monday?
At the Capleton Park. If the race ends, it comes to starts in Belize City, run through Yahateville, but cut off Coram, ends at Boom. That is in the morning early. After that, the horse race, of course, runs all day, and then Buddy Brown has this Belizean American Park Fest, which I think is going to be a smash. Now, if you're into partying and whatnot, you're going to really enjoy that session.
Where's the Park Fest going to be? What location?
Henderson Bank.
Where's that? Where's that?
Henderson Bank is the Ruta Miami finished there 1 year, man. It's once you go into Boom, you can't miss it. There'll be signs,
Okay.
there'll be directions, and of course people will help you. Just ask them where if you're going up make I know, maybe I ride with you, I'll give Ali be over the guard and thing for the day. Give Ali
All right, yeah, you
protection.
could protect me against
Like
the
you
neighbors.
go by yourself, you don't get more. Gonna tell you that.
Yeah. Then see white man, he got all the money. He got the money.
Listen, thank you, CY, for a few extra minutes. Please, guys, check out Buddy Brown, Belizean American Park.
Okay, and CY, have a good Easter.
blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Me hold a meds and say everything clear. They said the end of the earth is near. World War III, nuclear. Keep an eye upon the eagle and the bear. Oligarchs and billionaires. Space is the next frontier. They want breed glorified here. As a alone sitting in the high chair. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Make we come together and blow fire upon it. your pretty car or your bling. No, they worry about your house, your pretty car or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Global warming have the place the bake. Tsunami and earthquake. Then they leave land, they try to escape. Ye of little faith, we don't know we're real or we're fake. You have to watch the food you they put on your plate. In